Guys, good afternoon. It is another weekly webinar here for Valor. And again, if you got the notifications for this, is because you are, appointed, contracted through Valor to sell. Appreciate the opportunities to serve. And, we're going to talk about probably one of the most important things today is how to run illustrations. So, a lot of us are well equipped with multiple carriers to work with. But the hardest part is how do you take the product idea of serving a client and molding it into that shape that they're actually looking for. So we're going to do a little screen share action today. It's kind of like baking a cake, if you will, and in understanding how to really work the product side. So again, any questions? I have the chat box open over on my other monitor. So if you see me going like that, it's because I'm just checking on that. And we'll just kind of get started here. So again, for those who are unaware, we do use 3Mark Financial as our back office. And so they have all of the product and guidance and opportunity on how to run illustrations in one spot. How to actually run the illustrations is in their software. So we're going to focus on that today. What I will say is that if you have any questions about case design, you can always book an appointment with me. So appointments.valorfs.com. Will gladly help out. I use this as an opportunity. You don't have to be a top producer to get my time. You just have to book it. Now, people who call, text, if I can get to you, I will, but a lot of it is run by these four little icons right here. So that being said, let's kind of dive in. So again, we're going to run the illustrations off of 3mark.com. If you have not registered for the site yet, it is very, very easy. You go to the top right-hand corner and hit register. You put your information in, and then it'll say who referred you. You can say Phil Resch. You can say Valor. If you have a agency business partner who brought you in, you can use them as the referral partner. It does not matter. It is just to get you in the system and associated with the product suite. So we have two different types of products that we can obviously service or illustrate for you. One is term insurance and the other is permanent. So we're going to spend no more than 5, maybe 10 minutes on the term quote engine because it's term. Okay. It should be pretty easy to do. So if we go and look at this quotes tab right here and we click on the term UL quotes and illustrations, what we're going to do is we're going to look at, once it shows up, this spot right here, iPipeline. You can technically run quotes through this vital quote. I used to run them off of that, but one of my favorite products from the term chassis is actually not in vital quote, and that is the QOL flex term. It is, however, in a pipeline. So if you hit launch now, it will bring you in to the iPipeline tab. Now, what I will say for this is that there are so many carriers, so many carriers. This is that spreadsheet kind of person. So they say to you, well, I want the cheapest possible term. Okay, well, here's all the term carriers. This is the cheapest one, and that's the one you want to go with. Great. Go with God. We can illustrate it, we can run it, whatever. And we can sell it. So if I put my information in here, so Phil Resch, yes, I'm in Tennessee. We'll use my date of birth, and there's a good reason why. You'll see here I am currently 43, but with some carriers I'm actually 44. So again, that age nearest, I'm 6 months closer to my birthday. So some carriers will put me at 44. This is why getting date of birth is so important because you can actually save the clients some money. Or if you said they're 43 and you put 43 and the carrier of your choosing is an age nearest company, they're actually 44 and you ran all these quotes of 43, well, now they have to pay more because you didn't just ask for a date of birth. So very, very important. But gonna click on mail here. We have term already. They do have ROP term in here as well. There's like two carriers that have it. So if you did return a premium, you could see the ROP carriers as well. But let's go term length. I'm just gonna do 20-year term because it'll capture pretty much all the carriers. And I typically just show $1 million. Now, if I wanted to show another one, say 2 million, I could, and it'll print out both of them or show both of them. We'll keep it simple, enter the health class, and let's just pretend today I'm preferred. So all I'm going to do is hit get quotes, and it will pull up the shopping list of all the carriers and their pricing. Now, a couple things to observe here. So we have the million. I could also do the 2 million as well. And it should show up, it'll show up lower. So yeah, 2 million is down below. So let's just look at 1 million for right now. Uncheck that because we don't really need it. And you'll see here Transamerica is number one. Okay. So Transamerica is number one. Then you have Cincinnati Life, and then you have Banner. Now, Banner is usually number one or number two. They're also called Legal in General. Usually they're number one, two, maybe three. But if you'll notice, because I'm closer to 44, these are still age last companies, so I do get a little bit of a cost savings here. Literally 58 cents a year between Cincinnati Life and Banner. So just to give you perspective, when you're at the top, you're fighting over nickels. Now, another thing you'll notice here is if we scroll down, you'll see select a term from Corebridge is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Okay. Now, if I change it to monthly, they've flipped to 3. Some carriers will actually change their ratings for monthly because a lot of people just do monthly versus annual when they're paying for their term insurance. So some carriers fight over different cells because they want certain business versus other spots. Like I know when I worked at Corebridge, they did not want the 10-year term. That was not something that they favored. That is something that they would let other people kind of focus on. So if we look at this, we'll say Transamerica here, 85.85. And then, as I mentioned, I like to do the QOL flex term because of the living benefits, because of the conversion privileges, because of the products that are available in the conversion privileges. They're all the way down here at basically 99.96 or $100. So what I tell people is yeah, I can sell you the cheapest, but their permanent products, I'm not a big fan of their permanent products. Some people are, but for a $14 difference per month, that's one less trip to McDonald's. You're going to get full living benefits, you're going to get full conversion privileges, and you're going to have just a solid product. This does not have the living benefits on it. Corebridge is the first carrier on this list to have living benefits, followed by go all the way down. You got North American here. I believe this one is just regular term, not with living benefits. Then you have National Life Group here at 118. So it's literally almost $20 more for National Life Group at a preferred versus preferred. But a lot of people like National Life Group because they're one of the biggest companies in the industry right now. We sell them. There's no bias on this end. Whatever works best for your client is what's best for your client. Transamerica's living benefit product is now here, $137. So as you can see, there's differences here. Now, one of the questions came up, can you do New York? You can absolutely do New York. Will your products be limited? Absolutely, because New York sucks. Um, so let's look at New York. I'm just going to get rid of this 2 million and hit get quotes. So Banner works under the name William Penn in New York. So OP term is still the same. Protective, Corbridge, their selected term, not their QOL. Principal, Securian, Pru, and Emeritus, and NLG is the only carrier in New York that has living benefits. Okay. They were grandfathered in before they kind of put the kibosh on that. So that is why they are solid when it comes to New York. And a question came up, do I prefer Corbridge QOL over NLG? The answer is yes, because of the cost efficiency. Because if you have a substandard risk class, you do not lose the living benefits on Corbridge's term products. And also on top of that, there is an opportunity for cheaper costs on the permanent side too. So conversion privileges, they're about the same. NLG goes to 65, Corbridge goes to 70. Or the longest duration of the term, whichever comes first. So, but both products are good. Raphael, to kind of answer your question, I would go QOL first, but if I had a client who only had an I-10, then I would go with NLG because they will favor, foreign nationals way more than QOL will. So that's where you'll see the difference. Question came up about Symetra with living benefits. They have living benefits. They have chronic and terminal on their permanent products, nothing on their term. Okay. So it is just chronic up to 500K or 50% of the death benefit, whichever is less, and terminal. Another question came up about, can you filter out the carriers that provide living benefits? The answer is no. So unfortunately, you can't. So that is something that, me being the nerd that I am, I know what is what from that standpoint. But if, for example's sake, you just hit get quotes and you wanted to show only living benefits to your customer, then you could take out Emeritus, Surety, Banner, Cincy, Columbus, Foresters, John Hancock, Lincoln, and you can start cherry picking. Now, the hard part is when I uncheck, like say for example's sake, I keep Corbridge, well, it's going to give you the selected term and it's going to give you the QOL. So you'll have both of them on there, unfortunately. So there's not always a best answer, but we work with what we got. These are the lemons. I'm giving you lemonade, okay? But hopefully that helps. Someone asked about conversion benefits. It's a great question. So, what separates, say, a banner from a QOL? So I'll use myself as an example. So if I bought Banner, say 10 years ago, um, Banner has no conversion privileges. What does that mean? So Phil Resch 10 years ago was actually running like marathons. So if you'll see like medals here, that's when I was actually healthy. So I got a standard non-tobacco risk class when I bought my term. Well, fast forward, COVID hits, lethargic hits, and no longer at peak physical condition. And now all of a sudden, I'm 4 tables lower than standard non-tobacco. So now all of a sudden, if I went to apply for a permanent policy, I would be table D as in dog. So that's basically an extra 100% on the normal standard pricing. So it'd be like instead of $100 a month, it'd be $200 a month. But because I bought a term policy with conversion privileges, I don't have to go through underwriting again up to the face amount that I purchased, and I'll retain my risk class that I had from 10 years ago. So I got standard 10 years ago. I converted my term to permanent and I kept standard rating, just my current age. So you lock in insurability when you're younger. And then as you get older, you convert some or all of it to a permanent product. Well, if you have no permanent product to convert to, you're up the creek without a paddle. So Banner, they are a term company. They have one conversion product and it is extremely overpriced because their mentality is if you're healthy enough, you just buy another term. So they kind of corner you from that standpoint Whereas if you pay a little bit more for more options in the future, Mr. and Mrs. Client, would that make sense? Okay. So that's the reason why conversion privileges are so important, is because it allows you the opportunity to go back to your client and help protect them in the long run versus just the short game. So we are in a business of playing the long game. Everything that we have has a drag on it. It's a long duration, 20, 30, 40 years. So, we want to make sure we service our clients. How do we know if a quote has living benefits or not? That's a really great question. There's very few carriers that have full-blown living benefits. So if you want to talk true living benefit products on the term chassis, you're looking at Corebridge with the quality of life product, not Corebridge Select a Term, which you see on the screen. Corebridge QOL. You talk National Life Group, those two have pretty much the exact same ways of living benefits, chronic critical terminal, accelerated benefits. Then you have Columbus and North American, they do a percentage or percentage approach. And then you have Transamerica with their LB term products. So those are really the five that I would probably focus on if you're talking living benefits. But to me, there's really the clear-cut winners would probably be NLG, Corebridge, and North American from a cost efficiency standpoint. So hopefully that helps. Does Corebridge QOL provide short-term disability benefit for term? Um, Really, no. There's no short-term disability. So again, when you talk living benefits, you want to understand one thing. It is under the subjects of chronic, critical, and terminal. Okay. So chronic being can't perform 2 out of 6 activities of daily living, eating, bathing, dressing, continence, things like that. Or critical means you had a heart attack, you had stroke, you had cancer. Things like that would dictate whether or not you could get an acceleration of your death benefit. So a true definition of disability, let's say I sprained my wrist and normally I'm like digging holes, whatever. Okay, I can't perform my job function, but I didn't have a heart attack or stroke. I cannot accelerate a claim for living benefits. Typically, not carriers, employers will have some form of short-term DI, typically. And then we, as financial professionals, should be offering long-term disability plans to help supplement and protect if it's longer than 90 days. So that's a completely different topic, but it's a great topic that we can definitely dive into. Um, and then can't we click on the blue writing and see the product details? Yes, but not a lot of them will talk. Oh yeah, conversion options are right there. God, Tia, you get a gold star today. Gold star.
I see, I see.
Uh-huh. Thank you.
The
So
product
yeah,
details again.
if you click on the little blue button there, well, some of them will give it, some won't. So all right. It does give some detail depending on the carrier, conversion options and things like that. QOL, I guess, is a little prickly. But yeah, great tool for term. Um, Great opportunity again for quick answers. And this is the best part about term, folks, just to let you know. Illustrations, permanent insurance. Quotes, term insurance. What's the difference? You need an illustration to sell a product. You do not need a quote to sell a product. So if I walked, down the street and let's say, Nana, I saw you, said, "Hey, Nana, you need $1 million in term insurance. You want to buy some?" You said, "Sure." And I say, "Okay, I can write the application. I don't have to show you anything. I don't have to give you an illustration. They're not required by law." Okay. So that's why when we do a new offer, once the term policy is offered by the carrier, you don't have to, you'll get the price. And I could say, hey, Nana, the price is $50 a month for 20 years. Take it or leave it. Take it. Good. And you're moving on your merry way. When there's cash values involved, permanent insurance, that's when you have to have illustrations with how it works with all the disclaimers and disclosures. Okay. So a little different.
Is that by law,
Uh,
Phil?
Illustrations are by law. Yeah, you need to have an illustration. That's why if you run a permanent, you have a illustration that has to go with the case. So
Thanks.
otherwise, yeah, and that's why the client has to sign it. They sign it at submission, or they sign it if there's a change. So if I applied for preferred and I got standard, I have to revise the illustration. The client has to sign it. So it's understanding that things have changed.
Thanks.
So a couple questions. Any term product offers short-term disability? No, unfortunately not. And how's the compensation for term decided? That's the carriers. So it can be either the premium and then a percentage of whatever the premium is. Some carriers are more generous than others. That's why I don't sell Columbus's term because it's only 70% street. And that's crazy. But from the standpoint of how they dictate that, it's all like some carriers offer less in comps in general, like Pru and Hancock, because they advertise. It's easier to sell them compared to National Life Group or, Penn Mutual, whatever. So there's a difference in how they provide compensation too. So there's no magic 8 ball, it's a lot of actuarial decisions. I'll put it that way. So that's term insurance. Again, very easy to find under quotes, term UL quotes, and we did the iPipeline. Okay. Next stop would be permanent insurance. So we have WinFlex Web. So if you click here, because you've already signed in on the portal, now all of a sudden it'll bring you into WinFlex Web. You'll see SSO stands for single sign-on. I'm a big nerd about that. My first major, despite only being 2 trimesters, was IT. So just seeing how websites are built and stuff like that is kind of fun. Not really fun, but can be fun. So I'm going to back out real quick though, because I'm going to use my version of WinFlex just because I've had it for like almost 2 decades. So I have more carriers, but so WinFlex login, you log in through the single sign-on, and then you get to this main screen. Now, some of you will say like, well, I want to illustrate National Life Group and it's not in my system of WinFlex. It's perfectly fine. Once you get contracted with National Life Group, they give you their code. You go up to your profile in the top right-hand corner and click on profile. You hit add companies and you look for it here and you put your code in and hit place request. It should be there within 24 hours. Okay. If you are for some reason not seeing, if you are appointed with the QOL product and you're not seeing it in your instance of WinFlex, what I need from you is this page where it has your username, first name, last name, email address. Okay. And then from there, your 6-digit QOL code, email that to me. So a screenshot of this and your 6-digit code, and then I will go to Corebridge and make sure you get it because some people don't have it. Okay, so going to the WinFlex dashboard, we're going to click on illustrations, and I know Zoom makes this small, so I'm going to make it a little bigger for the visually impaired, a la myself as well. But what we're going to do is understanding here, you have a ton of carriers, okay? And I have a ton more because, like I said, I've had this for several companies that I've worked with. So I've gotten extra bells and whistles like an Edward Jones version and things like that. Um, so so when we look at this, and Armando, this might answer your question, multiple companies at the same time for children policies for IUL. That's what we can do with this. So let's say, for example's sake, I start out with the QOL product, okay? Because it's easy for me to start with because that's what I've worked with for 8.5 years before coming independent. So if we look at the idea of IULs specifically, IULs is a product that has two different ways, two different paths. Okay. You typically have in one situation a death benefit that you're trying to achieve, and you're trying to figure out the premium for that. So your primary focus is death benefit, secondary is cash, but you're trying to figure out what premium you need to get here. The other side is I have money that I want to put away for retirement, and I don't care about the death benefit. I care about the cash growth. So that's more of a accumulation play. So you'll see the wording and in the phraseology and how some of these carriers have put their products in. So value plus protector, protector, protection, death benefit focused. Max accumulator, accumulation, growth focused. Okay. So and we'll play on the accumulation side, it's a little bit more intense than the protection side. So we'll kind of use this one as our benchmark first. So I'll click on here and hit create client. Ideal clients for LIRPs, life insurance retirement plans, is around 30 to 55 is a good range. I would highly recommend that if you are talking to people in this range, you want to make sure they can put at least $300 to $500 away per month. Okay, $50, $100 is going to end up being a bad policy. I promise you. We can also do Roth IRAs, and it would be a smarter play to do a Roth IRA at $100 a month for someone versus doing a LIRP. Okay, I'm just trying to save you from yourself. So let's say, for example's sake, we're going to put in good old Phil Resch, and I'm going to pretend I'm 40 today. And like I said, I'm preferred, of course. And Tennessee is my home. So we're going to hit solve for, and this is where a lot of people get caught up, right? Solve for is an open format for everybody here. You see no solve, that means I can play around with it. I have a face amount that I don't know yet, and I have a premium that I don't know yet, and it's a lot of choice. So if I change this up, because again, in the accumulation space, I said to myself, I know a premium that I want to put in to get a income later. I don't know the face amount, so I'm going to solve for the face amount. And let's say, for example's sake, I'm going to put in about $12,000 a year, $1,000 a month, and I'm going to click on this calendar because at my age of 40, I only want to do this for, let's say, 20 years. So I'm going to change this to 20. I'm going to click off the screen, and then I'm just going to double click here and put 0. So now I have a 20 pay, and then I'm done after 20 years of $12,000 a year. Now, the problem we have here is if I kept this design, you'll see the face solve option is set for solving a death benefit option for 12,000 that will lapse at age 106 because the cash value will be $1,000 at 105, so it'll lapse the next year. I want income, I don't want death benefit, so I'm going to look here in the face solve option tab for the least amount of face amount or minimum face without turning it into a modified endowment contract. So that goes away. So now what we have is the opportunity to find the least amount of death benefit for $12,000 a month or a year, excuse me. I'm going to keep it what we have here, 100% in the S&P 500. We're going to come back to disbursements in just a minute. Okay, so again, at this point in time, we have 12,000 for 20 years with a 7.02 rate of return. And the policy options here, we want to have this increasing for 20 years for the amount of time we're funding, and then we want to change this to level. that will give us the most income possible for our product to thrive. Okay. So now I'm going to go back to disbursements and I'm going to check the box here and you'll see right now it says 0. So if I click on this calendar and I want to go to age because I don't care about the duration of funding at this point, I don't want to take out any money until 65. So I put 64, clicked off of it for a second, and now it dropped these two. Well, average age of mortality, especially for men, is about 82. So I'm going to push this out to about 89, 90. And I double clicked and hit solve for max. So I have a 25-year window of income. That's it for a what you call LERP. Geez, Nana, caps lock? What are you yelling at me? What is face amount reduction? That's kind of rude.
Sorry, short kick the
It's
caps. My apologies.
you're forgiven this time. Face amount reduction. I'm just joking with you anyway. Face amount reduction is a system thing to allow you to get more income. Okay. It doesn't mean the carrier will drop your face amount as low as possible once you're done funding. It's just an illustration play to show more income. That's all it is. I can uncheck it and it won't matter. You're going to lose about 2 to 5% of what the income would be. So I'll leave it for now just because that's the default. But we have 65 to 89. It'll show up as 66 to 90 when we actually run the illustration. So I can click here, calculate, and start it if I want to, and I can do one illustration. But Armando is like, Phil, that's not enough. I want to see multiple carriers. Let's kick it up a notch. Okay, fine. What I'm going to do over here is I'm going to hit copy. So now I have 2 Phil Reshes and 2 QOL products. Okay. So in this scenario, now I want to change to a different carrier. I'm going to hit change product. And now I'm going to look for another carrier to add. So if I scroll down, I'm going to use, let's say, we'll start with Symetra. Okay. Another trick of the trade. Okay, so first off, current assumption UL, we don't like those. Those are not priced well. We look for the IULs. So Ascent 2 and Ascent 3. Typically, these are the same products, but one is not approved yet. And let's say, for example, say California, because California usually delays. So 3.0, because it's the latest version, it's an accumulation product. It says so in the name, and it's an IUL. We don't do VULs. And a protector product is a protection product. So I'm going to hit update client. No, we got to change some things around. So I'm going to hit fix all errors, but then we have to go in and actually look and make sure everything is fixed accordingly. So index accounts, you'll see here, they have it in the NASDAQ 100, percent. I actually, for them, just between us, I like doing 50-50 because I like both the S&P and the NASDAQ. Sol for, you'll see the minimum no mech. You'll see reduced face, just like the other one. 12,000, that is a 20 pay. Disbursements, we have solve for max between 65 to 89, so it matches everything we did before. And policy options, we have increasing for 20 years and then level after. So now we have 2 carriers to show 2 different opportunities. Same idea. Okay. Let's kick it up a notch one more. I'll add one more carrier. So I copied once again from the top, change the product. Let's add in National Life Group. National Life Group has 2 products that they run with in the accumulation space. Flex Life for anything under $1 million, and then Summit anything above $1 million. So I know for a fact I will be below $1 million, so I'm going to pick on the Flex Life. And once again, I'll have to fix a couple things here, like the temporary flat extra at 0, which is fine. Solve for, we're going to look for minimum death benefit. So you see it put minimum premium. That makes no sense. So we want minimum death benefit, max cash value, 12,000. Index strategy, they put the pace setter. I say nay. I'm going to do 100% in the cap account. Disbursements, we have the disbursements 65 to 89. So that is all kosher. Policy options, 20 years. And I can do the max face reduction there too. So other than that, we have 3 different carriers, same objective. And if I wanted to calculate them all at one time, I'm not going to hit the orange button. I'm going to go in the top left, hit select all, and then I'm going to hit calculate over there, and it will run all 3 at the same time. Now that it's all calculating, again, we'll get all of them at one time. This should save you a process, as opposed to calculating one, then trying another, and then finding out the other one times out and all this other stuff. So this should save you time in the long run and help you streamline the process a little bit more. QOL typically takes a little longer than the other carriers too. Okay, so first thing that when we see from an observation standpoint, 20 years for all 3, 12,000 for all 3, and the death benefit is very close for all 3 of these. What does that mean? It's probably done accurately. If one of these showed like 2 million and the others were 200,000, there's a problem. Okay, you probably did one of them wrong. So if I click on the partners group one first, and I'm looking basically for most income. So if we go to first the page of the ledger here, you'll see 211. It's a funky number. 12,000. That's your guideline level premium. And that is also your premium. And your target is right here, what you get paid off of. So we scroll down and we look for what kind of money is Phil going to get at 65 or 66, like I said. We're looking at 57,248 for 25 years. Okay. So that would be the first one we look at. Next up, NLG, a little bit higher of a death benefit. I'm going to click here. And we're going to do the same thing. We're going to look and see their money page shows up first. So notice here, 12,000, 47,242. Excuse me, that is the guaranteed column. We want the non-guaranteed. So once again, guaranteed values, that's the no-no. We want the non-guaranteed, and you'll see it's still 47,242. So a lot of people ask, well, why is it less on the NLG product versus the core bridge? It could be a few different reasons. One is NLG stacks their chips in the Pacesetter product or Pacesetter index account, and that thing is like a dog with fleas. So that's why everyone is really getting away from the volatility controlled indexes and moving more towards the S&P. And so it kind of uncovers that they don't show as much income when you have something like that. So that could be a big problem.
Bill, I have a question.
Yeah, what's up?
So when you go back and it shows the 3 accounts, on this one, it's got an orange triangle with the exclamation part in the.
Yep,
What does that mean?
nothing. You don't have to worry about those. If it runs and you have a PDF here, you're good. If there's something over here, don't worry about it. So that's why I say like they have some of these like FYIs, but like this, I have no idea why I would even say that. Maximum face reduction calculation results in face amount. That's what the face is. So or close to, but I don't really know. I don't know on that one. So I usually ignore these. I've never really looked at them ever because as long as I get a PDF, I know I'm good. So I know it's a bad answer, but that's the only answer I got. So we'll look at the last one. We'll look at Symmetra, and we'll scroll down, get to their money page, which again is past all the disclosures and everything. So we have them with 12,000 varying rates because we have two different indices, and you'll see 57,831. So it's a little higher than the QOL, and that's really because they don't have living benefits. Living benefits are not free, they're just built in. There is a difference. Okay. So that kind of gives you a benchmark or an idea. Now, Armando, to go back to your question about juvies, same process. So instead of a 40-year-old, we're using a 4-year-old or a 10-year-old, right? And then you could use NLG, Corebridge, F&G would kind of be in that category too. So from a juvie standpoint, but NLG, believe it or not, has kind of made their bread and butter in the juvie space because they show very well for juveniles. And then when juveniles need to have coverage, their parents need to have coverage too. It protects against adverse risk of the kids, and so no one wants to show Corebridge for one and NLG for the other. So that's when you have a family of four, go with NLG. It's a brilliant tactic, but so the juvie space, a lot of times there's a couple parts in that because people want to show income for college and then they'll show income at retirement. That is a three-tier approach that I'll say for another time because we only have about 15 minutes left, give or take. Um, so so from this standpoint, you'll see, three different carriers and three different, face amounts. The results are 57 between, Corebridge and Symmetra. So it's no offense to NLG. Actually, what? I'll keep them in for this next one. So what we'll do here is I'm going to copy all three of these. So because I had a checkbox there, I hit copy up here. It added four more. I'm going to uncheck the originals and I'm going to change this ever so slightly. So now that I know what the floor is for the carrier, so Corebridge is 211, I'm going to change it to 250K. So I go from 211 to 250. Why did I do that? Does anyone know?
Increase target premium.
That would
Because
be a
there might
bad
not be
answer.
much difference in the income if you change little bit up.
You are correct with that, Netra. And what I would typically do from the 12K, because I know 211 is the lowest, I would probably go to 350 because then there's more space. And yes, you're right, you won't see much of a change from income. But there's a specific reason why I'm putting 250 in here. Anyone know?
Isn't it because the premiums go down if you're in a certain level?
Oh my gosh, Stephanie,
Or maybe
gold
there is a
star. It's it's a banding. So once you hit 250, you hit the first band with the carriers, so it reduces your cost of insurance. So Nana, I know you were thinking with your wallet there with the increases target. I'm just kidding. I'm totally kidding. We look at the banding here at 250K, and that could potentially take NLG and move them up in the ranking because some people might go down a little bit from an income standpoint. So if you're close to 250, 500, 750, or a mil, then it might be prudent to increase it up a little bit. Okay. Text preferences for juvies. So NLG, Corebridge, I'm going to say CB, and you can even put F and G in there too. So All right, so now we have 250, 250, 250. So QOL was around 57 and some change. What did the extra 40,000 do? 56,980. So we literally saw a drop of like 300 bucks a year. On illustrations, I can't emphasize this enough. Illustrations prove one thing is that ink sticks to paper. Uh, in the real world, real life, having lower cost of insurance, the 250 band makes more sense than just seeing less dollars on this actual piece of paper. So again, expectations, reality. We want to give people the expectation, the reality like this, not like this, right? So 250 is a solid number. So we're at 56 and 56.9 for them. Let's look at Symetra. Sorry, I'm going too fast. We're at 57.4. So you're at a $400 drop, I think it was, somewhere around there. And then NLG, you shouldn't see as big of a difference. They're at 47, but they were at 239K in face amount. Now they went up. Crazy. So that banding actually helped NLG a lot by increasing it up to 250. It got them up to competitive with the other carriers. How crazy is that? So once again, just looking at a few little tweaks, that'll take you from here to here in regards to, how you're servicing your client, providing the right expectation, the right opportunity. That's pretty trippy. It actually added about, what was it, 7,000 more in annual income to NLG's product. So that's a big deal. But yeah, so that's a lot to chew on. Let me see if I have some questions here. People may say instead of putting that much money here, I would do stocks. What's our appropriate answer? That's a great question, Netra. So, really, when you look at something like that, right, do you put all your eggs in one basket? Do you put all your eggs into Apple stock because it's the first $1 trillion company? No. So there's a reason why anytime that I'm talking to someone, especially about stuff like this, is when you look at what we're doing, is any financial advisor will tell you you have to have an aggressive and a conservative. You can't be overly aggressive because what will happen is that if you have a market correction, there's an extreme downturn and you lost a lot of money. So 80-20, 70-30. This is IULs, I would say, are an aggressive conservative. Okay. They can give you potentially double-digit returns, but you won't lose money to market performance. So it will work better than a bond or a money market or a savings account long term. So it complements, you can be aggressive in the market, you can be aggressive in real estate. This is your other side that gives you a total holistic package. So that's really what I would say to some of the people who are like, well, if I just leave it in the S&P, it's like, well, that's great, but I had a 401k that turned into a 201k in 2023, 22. Yeah, it's 22. When I left AIG, I lost a lot of money because of a downturn because there's conversation on war. And so stuff like that happens. So if I had a portion of it protected, I wouldn't have had to worry about that issue. So that's the thing that a lot of people are missing. Furthermore, if death does happen, you have a higher benefit to give to loved ones. You have living benefits. No stock or bond is going to give you living benefits. So that's why it is a self-completing policy as opposed to just a cash vehicle. And that's what we have to open their minds to. Nana, in regards to what Insmark is a software company that basically takes this illustration and puts it into a presentation. So if you talk about what Insmark does, let's say someone wanted to compare it to a 401k, which I would never do. Um, the hardest part about that is they're two completely different animals, and I think they complement versus compete, to be honest. But Insmark is a software that allows for that. Now, it is a pay-for software. What they do, though, is they partner with WinFlex to transfer the presentation over so you can have the two together. So Corbridge used to give it a very watered down version for free, but I highly doubt they do that still. I found Insmark to be extremely clunky. That's why, when I talk about the pay for softwares, I talk about using Nsight, which is a pay for software, but it gives you those pretty illustrations and designs as opposed to Insmark. But Insmark is very technical and there's a lot to it. So it's often clunky. If you try to create a PDF, it usually freezes and then you have to start the whole thing over. So you usually have to do print to PDF. It's a whole process. So not worth it in my opinion. All right, question on how to handle tax-related questions during the distributions, loan versus withdrawal. Cash wash loans is an option to convince the client. So, what I would say is that when you talk about taking these distributions, right? So I'm taking $57,000 a year. Well, if I was taking my money, then I would be taking out gains and cost basis. Now, you can technically take out your cost basis first as a standard withdrawal and then take out loans against the growth, which is fine. But in the idea of the IUL using a participating loan, you've now lost capital that could gain, that positive arbitrage or that growth a participating loan can provide. So typically what I would say is it's smarter to take loans with IULs than it is to take out what you put in first and then take out loans after, um, because of the opportunity to make more. Now, when you talk about your loan provisions, you have two types of loans. There is your standard loans and your preferred or participating loans. So standard loans would be if I, Phil Resch, borrowed $50,000, I'm borrowing the company's money. I'm not borrowing my money. They're taking my money, whether taxable or not, and putting it into a fixed bucket. The fixed bucket will stay there, and I can't keep money in a fixed account inside an insurance company without it giving me some type of interest. So I will get, say, 2% interest on that money as it sits there, but I also took a loan. So depending on when you take the loan, let's say 20 years from now, it would probably be a 2% or a wash loan. So a net zero cost loan, +2, -2, 0. Participating loan is going to give you a, let's say, 5% note on the loan that you borrowed, but your money doesn't go in this fixed account. It stays active in the market or the index account. So if you have a 10% return, they take the 5% to pay off that loan balance, but then you get 5% positive arbitrage. So a client can technically make more with the participating, but they have the option of doing either standard or participating at the time of when they want to take distribution. That would require doing an illustration or an in-force illustration to see what makes the most sense for the customer. Does that get all the questions? I found that QOL also illustrates the best at lower illustrative rates. Yeah, Juan, you're right. So when you run, so if I ran everybody at say 5.5 or 6%, Corbridge will technically, end up one of the better ones. Dina asked, I just opened WinFlex in my 3Mark account, asked me to update my company. Is it wanting an insurance company? No, what it's asking for is you to put 3 mark in there. So that's what you would put in there. So we're kind of at the hour. I think, and I'll answer your question here in a second. What I'll do next week is I'll talk more of the death benefit focus side because we didn't get a chance to do that. But there's a lot of value in the death benefit products too. And I just don't want to rush it. And I also don't want to lose people's attention because so much monotone suddenly starts to fade people. So we'll stick with this for right now. Last couple questions here. When you changed the death benefit to 250, it updated all the checked illustrations. Yeah, well, no, it didn't. They all stayed the same. What I did was I just hit select all and calculate, and it added what wasn't calculated already. So it added the 3 more to my entire spreadsheet. Now, if I want to send this to someone, I can hit send. I can save it. Let's just say, Resh example. It'll save it for me in WinFlex. All 6 of these illustrations will be saved to one thing, and then I can email it to myself, and I would get a link which would have all 6 PDFs in it too. Saves you some time, saves bandwidth on your email, and this has about a 30-day shelf life before you have to rerun it, and that would be accurate anyway because you don't want to use old illustrations with clients anyway. So last question, if a client starts late, the IULs, let's say 60, want to add a lump sum beside the premium, how much, limit are we with the lump sum? First off, I would say it's a bad idea, because once you get to 60, your horizon to start retirement is what? 5 years away? 6 years away? 7? I highly encourage people to not do something at 60. I would look at an annuity instead. Granted, it doesn't have the tax-free income. It doesn't have massive amounts of fees that someone at 60 years old would have. So, and the other thing too is if you think about a cliff, you're funding and this policy is going like this, and then when you stop, you levelize it, it flattens. But if you are putting, say, $500 a month in, and then you increase by putting like 20,000 in the first year, your cost of insurance cliff is so much higher that this money is not going to achieve in year 2, 3, or 4, that it'll just eat away at your cash with the cost of insurance. So, you're running into 2 issues, lump sum being one of them, and age is the other. You want to streamline it and keep the premiums as level as possible to keep your death benefit down. How can we illustrate a Roth? That's going to be a different story for a different day. Don't have time for that. That would be on MLG's site through their product and process. So we can definitely do that another time, but it's pretty easy. So with that, because I want to stay true to about the hour, I'll cut here. But once again, as you can see, this is obviously a hot topic on illustrations. We will talk about death benefit focused illustrations next week to kind of continue the topic. And if we have time permitted at the end, we can do the Roth. But I want to say thank you guys. This will be up shortly on the YouTube channel. Have a great rest of your day. And if we don't talk today or tomorrow, have a great weekend. And glad to be back. Glad to see you guys. And we'll talk soon.
Thank you very much for your time, Phil.
Anytime.
Appreciate it.
Thank you, Phil.
Thank you for.
See you guys.
Bye-bye.